What if a woman who always spent time alone is dangerous reveals the power of solitude to cultivate resilience and clarity? In her quiet moments, she discovers her inner strength, defines her purpose, and builds a foundation of self-reliance that transforms challenges into opportunities for growth. The power of solitude lies in its ability to transform the individual, especially when embraced intentionally and purposefully. Solitude is not merely the absence of company. It is a profound state where one can retreat into the depths of the mind and soul. For a woman who learns to spend time alone, this space becomes sacred, a refuge from the relentless noise of the outside world. It is in this quietude that she begins to cultivate self-awareness. Freed from the distractions and judgments of others, she gains clarity about who she truly is and what she values most. The solitude she chooses is not about isolation or loneliness, but about creating an environment where reflection and self-growth can thrive. Consider the story of a woman who spends her mornings sitting quietly by the window, her only companion being the soft rustle of the trees outside. In those moments of silence, she reflects on her day, her thoughts, and her emotions. The world demands that she move quickly, that she produce results, and that she stay connected. But in her solitude, she pauses. This deliberate act of stillness allows her to distinguish between the external noise of expectations and the internal voice that guides her toward authenticity. Such a practice not only sharpens her understanding of herself, but also strengthens her ability to regulate her emotions. When challenges arise, she faces them with a sense of balance and composure, for she has already spent the time to prepare herself emotionally. Self-awareness gained in solitude provides clarity. It is through solitude that she identifies the patterns in her life, both positive and negative. For example, she may realize that her habit of overcommitting stems from a desire to be validated by others. By sitting with this realization, she learns to set boundaries, honoring her own needs rather than constantly seeking external approval. A quote by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke encapsulates this beautifully. "The only journey is the one within." This journey within helps her recognize her fears, her dreams, and her flaws without judgment. She embraces these truths, knowing they are integral to her growth. Solitude also becomes a workshop for personal development. Away from the distractions of constant communication and social obligations, she creates space to evaluate her goals and aspirations. Consider another example. A woman who spends her weekends hiking alone in the mountains. In the stillness of nature, she contemplates her life's direction. She examines whether her career aligns with her passions or if her relationships are supportive of her well-being. These moments of deep reflection allow her to refine her path, making choices that resonate with her true self. The solitude she seeks is not a withdrawal from life, but an intentional pause to ensure she moves forward with purpose and clarity. The power of solitude lies in its ability to fortify inner strength. A woman who spends time alone learns to rely on herself. She understands that while others may offer support, the ultimate source of her resilience is internal. This realization is profoundly liberating. It shifts her perspective from dependency to empowerment. An inspiring historical example can be found in Eleanor Roosevelt, who often spent time alone to think, write, and recharge. Her solitude was a source of her strength, enabling her to become a powerful advocate for human rights. Her words, "You must do the things you think you cannot do," reflect the confidence that solitude can instill. As she cultivates this inner strength, she becomes more adept at distinguishing between what truly matters and what does not. Solitude equips her with the clarity to prioritize her energy and focus on meaningful pursuits. For instance, a woman might use her solitary moments to write down her goals and visualize the steps needed to achieve them. This act of planning in silence is an investment in her future. It allows her to block out the external pressures and distractions that might otherwise dilute her efforts. When she emerges from her solitude, she is armed with a sense of purpose and direction that is unshakable. In her quiet moments, she discovers the profound connection between solitude and creativity. Freed from the demands of constant productivity, her mind has the space to wander, explore, and innovate. Consider the example of a writer who spends hours alone at her desk, crafting stories that reflect the depth of her imagination. Solitude becomes the fertile ground where ideas take root and flourish. It is in these moments of stillness that she uncovers solutions to problems and envisions possibilities that once seemed out of reach. The power of solitude, however, is not without its challenges. It requires courage to face oneself honestly and to sit with uncomfortable truths. Yet it is precisely this discomfort that leads to transformation. A woman who spends time alone learns that growth often requires stepping out of her comfort zone. She becomes willing to confront her fears and insecurities, knowing that doing so will make her stronger. As the philosopher Blaise Pascal observed, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. For the woman who embraces solitude, this quiet room is not a place of avoidance, but a space for empowerment. Solitude teaches her the art of listening, not just to the world around her, but to her own heart. In this space, she hears the whispers of her intuition, guiding her toward decisions that align with her values. This connection to her inner voice becomes her compass, allowing her to navigate life with confidence and grace. Over time, the solitude she once feared becomes her greatest ally, a source of strength, clarity, and renewal. She emerges from it not as someone who is disconnected, but as someone deeply connected to herself and in turn to the world around her. Self-reliance and resilience are not traits that appear overnight. They are cultivated through deliberate effort, reflection, and the courage to face life's challenges head-on. For a woman who spends time alone, solitude becomes the forge in which these qualities are strengthened. In the stillness of her solitude, she begins to untangle herself from the need for external validation. She understands that her worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the strength and integrity she builds within. The journey toward self-reliance is one of profound transformation, requiring her to confront her fears, acknowledge her flaws, and trust her own abilities. Imagine a woman standing on the edge of a decision that frightens her, a choice that could change her life. Perhaps she has always sought advice and reassurance from others, relying on their approval to guide her steps. But in her solitude, she learns to trust her own instincts. She takes the time to sit with her fear, dissecting its roots and understanding its message. Fear, she realizes, is not her enemy, but a signal pointing toward growth. By confronting it directly, she begins to rely on her inner strength. The writer Anais Nin beautifully captures this sentiment. Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. Her solitude teaches her to expand, to step boldly into the unknown, with confidence in her ability to handle whatever comes her way. As she spends more time alone, she discovers the value of embracing her flaws. Society often demands perfection, encouraging individuals to hide their imperfections. But solitude creates a space where she can reflect honestly on her weaknesses without judgment. she begins to see her flaws not as limitations but as opportunities for growth. For example, a woman who struggles with impatience might use her solitary moments to observe how it manifests in her life. She reflects on times when impatience has led to mistakes or missed opportunities. With this awareness, she sets small, deliberate goals to practice patience, such as pausing before responding in challenging situations. Over time, this self-reflection transforms her perceived weakness into a strength, allowing her to approach life with greater composure. Resilience is another cornerstone of her journey. When she faces setbacks or failures, her solitude becomes a sanctuary where she can process these experiences. Consider the story of a woman who loses her job unexpectedly. Initially, the weight of uncertainty feels overwhelming, and she is tempted to seek constant reassurance from those around her. Instead, she chooses to retreat into solitude. In this quiet space, she reflects on her skills, her passions, and the opportunities she might pursue. She begins to strategize, creating a plan to rebuild her career. Her resilience is born from her ability to view challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to adapt and grow. This process of self-reliance strengthens her resolve, teaching her that she is capable of weathering life's storms without losing her sense of direction. Solitude also allows her to redefine her relationship with success and failure. In a world that often equates success with external recognition, she learns to measure her achievements by her own standards. For instance, she might set a personal goal to write a book or complete a marathon, not for applause, but for the fulfillment of proving to herself that she can. Through these solitary endeavors, she builds confidence in her abilities. She begins to understand that true success is not about impressing others, but about living in alignment with her values and aspirations. Her journey towards self-reliance is further enriched by her ability to cultivate emotional resilience. In solitude, she learns to regulate her emotions, processing them thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. When faced with disappointment or criticism, she takes the time to explore her feelings. She asks herself what these emotions are teaching her and how she can respond constructively. This emotional maturity becomes a source of strength, enabling her to navigate complex situations with grace. As Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, once wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." In her solitude, she embraces this challenge, using her emotions as tools for growth rather than obstacles to be avoided. An essential aspect of self-reliance is learning to set boundaries. Solitude helps her recognize what she will and will not tolerate in her life. She becomes selective about the relationships she maintains and the energy she allows into her space. For example, she might choose to distance herself from people who undermine her confidence or drain her energy. This decision is not rooted in bitterness, but in self-respect. She understands that protecting her peace is essential for her well-being and growth. Her boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but guidelines that ensure she remains aligned with her true self. Through solitude, she also learns to rely on her own problem-solving skills. When challenges arise, she resists the urge to immediately seek help or advice. Instead, she takes the time to assess the situation, weigh her options, and determine the best course of action. Consider a woman who encounters a financial setback. Rather than panicking, she uses her solitude to create a budget, identify areas where she can cut expenses, and develop a plan to regain stability. This process of self-reliance reinforces her confidence, showing her that she is capable of finding solutions independently. The journey of self-reliance and resilience transforms her into a woman who is unshakable. She no longer depends on the validation or support of others to feel complete. Instead, she finds fulfillment in her ability to navigate life's complexities with confidence and grace. Her solitude becomes a source of empowerment, reminding her that she is enough just as she is. As she embraces her independence, she inspires others to do the same, showing them that strength is not found in avoiding challenges, but in facing them with courage and resilience. Solitude offers an unparalleled opportunity for a woman to gain clarity and define her purpose. In the stillness of her alone time, she begins to sift through the noise of daily life, filtering out distractions and external influences. This process is transformative because it allows her to listen to her inner voice, the quiet yet powerful guide that often goes unheard amidst the chaos. In solitude, she learns to focus her attention on what truly matters, shedding the obligations and expectations that do not align with her values. This clarity is not immediate. It unfolds gradually, like the sharpening of a lens that eventually reveals a crisp, vivid picture of her life's direction. Imagine a woman who spends her evenings journaling in a quiet room. With each entry, she reflects on her goals, her dreams, and the steps she has taken toward them. She questions whether her daily actions are moving her closer to her aspirations or pulling her further away. This practice of introspection helps her identify areas where she may have been wasting time or energy. For instance, she might realize that she has been saying yes to commitments out of guilt or obligation rather than genuine desire. By acknowledging this pattern, she begins to reclaim her time and energy, directing them toward pursuits that align with her long-term vision. As Stephen Covey famously said, the key is in not spending time, but in investing it. Through solitude, she learns the art of intentional living, where every choice becomes a step toward her purpose. The focus she gains in solitude becomes a powerful tool for overcoming challenges. When faced with setbacks, she does not panic or allow herself to be consumed by self-doubt. Instead, she uses her time alone to strategize and recalibrate. Consider a woman who experiences a major career disappointment, such as being passed over for a promotion. In solitude, she reflects on what went wrong and what she can do differently moving forward. Perhaps she identifies areas where she needs to develop new skills or improve her approach. She sets specific, actionable goals and creates a plan to achieve them. This process of reflection and planning not only restores her confidence, but also strengthens her resolve to persevere. Her solitude becomes a space where she transforms adversity into opportunity, turning what could have been a stumbling block into a stepping stone. Solitude also enables her to refine her sense of purpose. Away from the expectations and opinions of others, she begins to explore what truly fulfills her. This exploration is deeply personal, requiring her to dig beneath the surface of societal norms and external pressures. For example, she might spend time volunteering for a cause that resonates with her values, such as environmental conservation or mentoring young people. Through these experiences, she gains insight into what brings her joy and meaning. Over time, she identifies her unique calling, a purpose that aligns with her strengths, passions, and values. This clarity gives her life direction, anchoring her even in moments of uncertainty. Patience is another virtue cultivated in solitude. In a world that glorifies instant gratification, solitude teaches her the value of waiting and trusting the process. When working toward her goals, she understands that meaningful progress takes time. For instance, a woman pursuing a creative passion such as painting or writing might spend hours alone honing her craft. There are moments of frustration when progress seems slow, but she learns to embrace these periods as part of the journey. Each brushstroke or word written brings her closer to mastery. Her patience is a testament to her commitment, a quiet reminder that perseverance often yields the most rewarding results. As the novelist Paulo Coelho observed, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Solitude allows her to align her efforts with this universal truth, moving steadily toward her dreams with unwavering faith. Through her time alone, she also gains a deeper understanding of her priorities. She learns to differentiate between what is urgent and what is important, ensuring that her actions align with her values rather than being dictated by external demands. Consider a woman who is balancing a demanding career with personal goals, such as maintaining her health or nurturing meaningful relationships. In solitude, she evaluates how she is allocating her time and energy. She might realize that her work has been consuming her to the detriment of her well-being. With this awareness, she makes deliberate changes, such as setting boundaries around her work hours or dedicating specific time to self-care and connection with loved ones. This process of prioritization helps her create a life that is both balanced and fulfilling. The clarity she gains in solitude extends beyond personal goals to her relationships with others. She begins to recognize which connections enrich her life and which drain her energy. In solitude, she reflects on the quality of her relationships, asking herself whether they are rooted in mutual respect and shared values. If a relationship no longer serves her growth, she learns to let it go with grace. This discernment allows her to cultivate deeper, more meaningful connections where both parties bring their authentic selves to the table. Her clarity in relationships is a reflection of her overall clarity of purpose, ensuring that every aspect of her life aligns with her true self. Her ability to focus and strategize also equips her to handle life's inevitable uncertainties. When the path ahead seems unclear, she does not rush to find answers or solutions. Instead, she embraces the ambiguity, trusting that clarity will emerge in time. This trust is rooted in her belief that solitude provides the space needed for answers to surface. A woman navigating a major life decision, such as moving to a new city or changing careers, might use her solitude to weigh the pros and cons, explore her fears and hopes, and listen to her intuition. In these moments, she discovers that clarity is not always about having all the answers, but about trusting herself to make the right choice when the time comes. The purpose she discovers in solitude becomes a guiding light, influencing every decision she makes. It gives her the confidence to say no to distractions and yes to opportunities that align with her goals. For example, a woman who has identified her purpose as fostering community might decline a lucrative job offer that conflicts with her values in favor of a role that allows her to make a meaningful impact. Her purpose acts as a compass, keeping her grounded and focused even when the world around her is chaotic. The clarity and purpose she gains through solitude transform her life. She becomes a woman who moves with intention, guided by a vision that is uniquely her own. Her patience and perseverance ensure that she stays the course, even when faced with challenges. Her solitude is not an escape, but a foundation, a space where she finds the strength, focus, and direction to create a life of meaning and impact. Spiritual growth is one of the most profound transformations that solitude nurtures in a woman's life. In moments of intentional solitude, she steps away from the distractions of the world and enters a sacred space where she can connect deeply with God. This connection is not one of mere ritual or obligation. It becomes a lifeline, a source of peace, guidance, and strength that anchors her in the face of uncertainty. Solitude invites her to reflect on her faith, examine her relationship with the divine, and discover a wellspring of reassurance that she can carry into every aspect of her life. In her quiet moments, she finds the time to pour out her heart in prayer, speaking openly and vulnerably to God about her struggles, dreams, and fears. For instance, a woman navigating a challenging decision, such as whether to change her career or stay in a secure yet unfulfilling role, might turn to prayer during her solitude. She seeks not just answers, but the strength to trust in the process, knowing that her path will unfold according to divine timing. The words of Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God," resonate deeply in these moments. Stillness becomes her act of surrender, a declaration of faith that God's wisdom is greater than her fears. Through solitude, she learns to listen, not only to her thoughts, but to the subtle ways God speaks to her. This listening requires patience and a willingness to be present. She begins to notice signs and nudges that guide her decisions, whether it's a recurring thought, an unexpected opportunity, or a feeling of peace that accompanies a particular choice. Consider a woman who has long felt drawn to mentoring others, but has doubted her ability to make an impact. During her solitude, she feels an unshakable sense of clarity and conviction that mentoring is her calling. This realization does not come in a dramatic moment, but in the quiet unfolding of her connection with God, where doubt gives way to purpose. Her solitude also becomes a time of worship and gratitude. She reflects on the ways God has carried her through past challenges, recognizing moments of provision and protection that might have gone unnoticed in the busyness of daily life. For example, she may recall a period when she felt overwhelmed by financial difficulties, only to realize that unexpected opportunities arose to meet her needs. These reflections deepen her faith, reminding her that she is never truly alone. As the theologian Charles Spurgeon once said, "God is too good to be unkind, and he is too wise to be mistaken, and when we cannot trace his hand, we must trust his heart." In solitude, she cultivates this trust, finding peace even when the path ahead is unclear. Solitude also teaches her the importance of resting in God's promises. In a world that glorifies constant productivity, taking time to rest can feel counterintuitive. Yet it is in rest that she finds renewal. She remembers the words of Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." In her solitude, she embraces this invitation, allowing herself to let go of the burdens she has been carrying. Whether she spends her time reading scripture, meditating, or simply sitting in silence, these moments become a source of strength that rejuvenates her spirit. Her faith deepens as she learns to rely on God rather than placing her trust solely in people or circumstances. This shift in reliance is both liberating and empowering. For instance, a woman who has faced repeated disappointments in her relationships might initially feel disillusioned and isolated. But in her solitude, she begins to understand that while human connections are valuable, they are not the ultimate source of fulfillment. She turns her focus to God, finding a love that is unwavering and a presence that never falters. This realization does not make her closed off to others, but instead strengthens her ability to love and serve without expectation, knowing that her worth is rooted in her identity as a child of God. In her solitude, she also learns the power of surrender. Letting go of control is one of the hardest lessons, but it is also one of the most transformative. She begins to trust that God's plans for her are greater than anything she could imagine. Consider a woman who has meticulously planned every detail of her life, only to see her plans unravel in unexpected ways. Initially, this loss of control feels like failure. But in her moments of quiet reflection, she comes to see that the disruptions were not setbacks, but redirections. She remembers Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. This trust allows her to move forward with peace, even when the future feels uncertain. Solitude also fosters a sense of purpose in her spiritual life. Away from the noise of societal expectations, she has the space to discern how her talents and passions align with God's calling for her. For instance, a woman who has always loved creating art might begin to see her work not just as a hobby, but as a way to inspire and uplift others. She recognizes that her creativity is a gift, one she is meant to share. This sense of calling gives her life deeper meaning, anchoring her even when challenges arise. She understands that her purpose is not about seeking accolades, but about living in alignment with the divine plan for her life. Her solitude also strengthens her resilience. By spending time alone with God, she gains the emotional and spiritual fortitude to face life's hardships with grace. When trials come, she does not crumble under the weight of fear or despair. Instead, she turns to the strength she has cultivated in her quiet moments. She prays for wisdom, she reflects on Scripture, and she reminds herself of God's faithfulness. This resilience is not about denying the reality of pain, but about trusting that there is a purpose even in the midst of suffering. As the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. The solitude she embraces is not an escape, but a sacred practice that strengthens her connection with God. It is in these moments that she finds peace beyond understanding, guidance for her path, and the courage to live her faith boldly. Her spiritual growth becomes evident not only in her relationship with God, but also in the way she interacts with others, inspiring those around her to seek their own connection with the divine. Through her solitude, she emerges as a woman of unwavering faith, grounded in the knowledge that she is never truly alone. Wisdom and discernment are two of the most transformative gifts that solitude bestows upon a woman. In her moments of reflection, she develops a profound ability to understand herself and the world around her. Solitude becomes a mirror, reflecting her thoughts, experiences, and choices in a way that no external influence can. This clarity allows her to cultivate wisdom, a deep, intuitive knowledge gained not from the opinions of others, but from her own lived experiences. Her discernment becomes sharper, empowering her to align her decisions with her values and recognize what truly matters. This journey of inner growth not only enhances her own life, but also inspires those around her to pursue authenticity and self-awareness. In solitude, she learns the art of slowing down and observing. Away from the noise and distractions of the world, she begins to notice patterns in her life and in the behaviors of others. She reflects on past choices, identifying what has served her growth and what has hindered it. For example, she might recognize that certain relationships have been draining rather than supportive. This realization does not come from a place of judgment, but from a desire to protect her peace and prioritize meaningful connections. As Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." Her discernment allows her to see beyond surface appearances and understand the deeper intentions and motivations of others. Her wisdom is rooted in her willingness to learn from every experience, whether positive or negative. Consider a woman who has faced repeated failures in her career. Instead of becoming bitter or discouraged, she uses her solitude to analyze these setbacks. She asks herself what lessons each failure holds and how she can apply them moving forward. Perhaps she realizes that her past decisions were driven by fear rather than confidence, or that she was pursuing goals that did not truly align with her values. Armed with this insight, she adjusts her approach, making choices that reflect her authentic self. This process of reflection transforms her failures into stepping stones toward success. As Confucius wisely noted, by 3 methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. In her solitude, she embraces all 3, using reflection to elevate her understanding of herself and the world. Her discernment becomes a powerful tool for decision-making. She no longer feels the need to seek approval or validation from others because she trusts her own intuition. For instance, a woman considering a major life change, such as moving to a new city, might initially feel overwhelmed by conflicting advice from friends and family. In her solitude, she takes the time to sit with her thoughts, weighing the pros and cons and listening to her inner voice. She asks herself whether this decision aligns with her values and long-term goals. Through this process, she gains clarity, allowing her to move forward with confidence. Her ability to discern is not about avoiding mistakes, but about making intentional, value-driven choices. Solitude also sharpens her ability to recognize opportunities that align with her purpose. While others may rush into decisions or chase after fleeting trends, she takes the time to evaluate whether a particular path is right for her. Consider the example of a woman offered a high-paying job in a field that does not resonate with her passions. While the financial reward might seem tempting, her solitude gives her the space to reflect on whether this opportunity aligns with her values. She recognizes that true success is not measured by external achievements, but by living a life that is authentic and fulfilling. This discernment allows her to say no to distractions and yes to opportunities that nurture her growth. Her wisdom extends to her relationships, where she becomes adept at distinguishing between genuine connections and superficial ones. She understands that not everyone who enters her life has her best interests at heart. Through reflection, she learns to set boundaries and protect her energy. For instance, she might distance herself from individuals who are consistently negative or manipulative, while prioritizing relationships that uplift and inspire her. This discernment is not about excluding others, but about creating a supportive environment where she can thrive. As the saying goes, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Her solitude enables her to choose these people wisely, ensuring that her inner circle reflects her values and aspirations. The wisdom she gains in solitude also equips her to navigate challenges with grace. When faced with adversity, she does not react impulsively, but takes the time to reflect and respond thoughtfully. For example, a woman dealing with a conflict at work might use her solitude to explore the root of the issue and consider various perspectives. By approaching the situation with empathy and understanding, she is able to find a resolution that aligns with her principles. Her discernment allows her to remain composed and focused, even in the midst of turmoil. The wisdom and discernment she cultivates in solitude transform her into a woman of depth and insight. She moves through the world with clarity and purpose, unshaken by external pressures or fleeting trends. Her decisions are guided by her values. Her relationships are rooted in authenticity, and her challenges are met with resilience and grace. Her solitude is not a retreat from life, but a foundation for living it more fully. As she continues to reflect and grow, she becomes a beacon of light for others, showing them the power of reflection, self-awareness, and intentional living. Through her example, she reminds us all that wisdom is not something we find outside ourselves, but something we cultivate within. In solitude, a woman discovers the transformative power of quiet reflection and intentional stillness. Through this journey, she is shaped into a person of remarkable strength, unshakable wisdom, and unwavering purpose. Her moments of silence are not a retreat, but a foundation, where she learns to confront her fears, embrace her flaws, and find the courage to live authentically. This sacred space of solitude allows her to develop clarity, prioritize what matters, and align her actions with her values. She emerges from her time alone with a deep sense of resilience, capable of navigating life's challenges with grace and composure. Her self-reliance grows as she learns to trust herself, no longer depending on external validation to define her worth. In solitude, she refines her focus, becoming intentional about her goals and relentless in her pursuit of a meaningful life. This clarity not only empowers her to thrive as an individual, but also inspires those around her to embrace their own stillness. She becomes a living testament to the idea that strength and wisdom come not from external achievements, but from the quiet moments where growth takes root. Ultimately, her solitude transforms her into more than just a person of quiet strength. It makes her a beacon of inspiration. She shows others that stepping away from the noise is not a weakness, but a profound act of courage. Through stillness, she has found her purpose, cultivated her resilience, and awakened to the possibilities of a life aligned with her true self. Her journey reminds us all that within the quiet lies the power to grow, to heal, and to thrive. This is the gift of solitude, the ability to reconnect with ourselves, uncover our purpose, and face the world with clarity and confidence.